Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today I have another 3D print, as you can see. Now, obviously, this is the Razorcrest from the Mandalorian series. This file was found on Thingiverse. I believe the writer's name was Askadel or Askadal. I'm not sure how to pronounce that. Anyway, it's a free file and it comes in two parts. As you can see right here, I've printed it in its two halves. Now, as you can see, it's about a little less than 4 inches wide. And now together it's going to be about 5 inches long. So not a bad size, not real sure of the scale. I think we're somewhere in the 1/44th area. I'll have to try to figure out the numbers on that. But just by looking at it, it kind of looks somewhere in that area. So anyway, what I'd like to do with this is I actually like to incorporate just a little bit of lighting in the engines here. Now the file, when I printed it with a hollow core, and I also incorporated some hollowing out of the engines. As you can see here, there's a hole that runs all the way through. It didn't come that way. I had to insert the holes, but I think that will make it easier to line up my lighting. I want to put some 3mm yellow LEDs in there to light it up. Now, there were a few flaws. As you can see, I've done some putty work. I had a few minor flaws in here. And also, when I built it, I actually broke apart, I think it was this one, removing it from the build plate. I put these directly on the build plate with no supports and printed them, and they printed pretty good. They were just really attached, and this engine right here actually broke off as I was trying to remove it from the build plate. You can see the crack right here kind of ran through there. Super glued it back into place. It's hardly even noticeable, so I don't think that's a big deal. Now, to light this, I will have to, as you can see, these surfaces are smooth. I'm going to have to tunnel this out a little bit more and make a trench for the wiring to come into here. It is hollow behind those holes. Those are drainage holes for the extra resin that accumulated inside the hollow area. And I had similar things on here. Now I've already took my Dremel and started cutting away. As you can see how it's kind of hollowed out. I had to cut away. I had it pretty thick, as you can see. I like the strength in there. But the plan is to put a support rod or mounting rod in this section right here. Gives a little space for the wiring to come out. And again, we'll have to trench out this area to run those LEDs in there. So it won't be anything super complex, but a nice little effect. And so, but we'll have to obviously glue it together. We're going to have that seam line to contend with, which will probably be tricky. It does fit, it's pretty flush. So, but we're going to have the seam line running all the way across. And of course, we'll have to paint it up. So, I'm going to get started working on. First things first, we've got to figure out if we can actually get those LEDs in there and looking pretty good. All right, after quite a bit of channeling out, as you can see on both sides, I've made space for everything. I have a pre-wired 3mm LED stuck in there right now. This temporarily check the gap. I did get it to close up. And I also drilled a hole through the bottom here. And I'll be running this brass tubing to inside this hole for support. But right now I'm just trying to get this all measured out. But that seems to have worked. So I'm going to be putting some LEDs in there, and then we're going to settle it all up. I think I'm going to be using this. This is a PVC pipe end cap. Then you can get it like Home Depot and stuff for just a few dollars. They make for pretty good display bases, nice round shape, but they give you a lot of space for battery and switches and wires. That's why I like to use these. Cheap and simple, but I've used these many times. Anyway, I want to do some kind of scenic diorama here, or scenic display, not really a diorama, but scenic display. I want to kick around a few ideas. I haven't quite decided, so I'm just waiting to show you that once I decide on that. But just want to show you that. Now, I did this is resin, so you want to protect yourself. You don't want to breathe this in. When I'm working with that, I like to use my Dremel with my exhaust fan just to kind of keep it, and I also wash it off. And you want to wear a mask, and eye protection probably helps a lot too. But anyway, I've got that out. I need to clean this off a little bit more, and I get those installed in there. All right, and here you can see I have my lights installed, everything channeled out. I've test fitted it several times. I've connected the two LEDs to one wire to go out to our power source, which will go into our display base. So now I'll have to just close it up. And so I'll just use some, as you can see, I'll have to hold it in place, and I'm just going to use some regular super glue, and then I can start working on the seam work. I've already checked the lighting, it's working. Pretty pleased with how that's coming out. So far so good. Alright, got my ship all put together. There's still a lot of body work to do. I've just kind of started on it. There was some little bit of gaps around the body. As you can see, I'm working on getting it all filled up. I'm going to go ahead and put a coat of primer on it to start tell them where I need to work on it a little bit more. Primer always brings out flaws and imperfections. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. I have tested the lighting. Excuse me, lighting is working, so that's good. And but I just still got a lot of body work to do to get this looking right. Alright, I think I've worked out most of the flaws. There's some still minor flaws and imperfections that came out in the print that I just wasn't really able to get worked through, or at least I don't want to spend that much more work. I've spent a lot of time trying to take care of these seams, especially on the underside. They were pretty bad. Anyway, I primed over it, and then I've put this black undercoat, and now I'm going to be going into painting the chrome paint on it. Alright, well here is my finished Razorcrest with its little diorama. I just took this little PVC cap. These are some lava rocks that I had in my barbecue pit, and just kind of hot glued them on there, painted them, and I attached a kind of a candle LED down in there, and put some hot glue, but then I covered it with a little liquid resin that I use for my 3D printer. Yeah, I have a little UV flashlight that I then secured it on there. I didn't seal it very good, so I did have some leakage on the bottom. When I realized that happened, I quickly put some hot glue to kind of seal that over and harden it with my UV light. So anyway, with the Razorcrest, after I finished putting on the primer and then a black base coat, I did a kind of a after I put the black coat, I did a base coat with this metallic metal gray from Folk Art. I just dilute it down with regular water until it gets kind of a milky paste, a little lighter maybe. Anyway, and I painted it. Now this is a little bit darker. It's hard to tell in this canister, but I painted that color on it. And then I used a sponge technique with some of this model layer aluminum from Vallejo, and use a sponge technique to kind of go all over that. and kind of give it that worn look. If you look close, it kind of has that beat up metal look. And I think it turned out pretty good. I was pretty happy with that. I also did some weathering with some dry pastels. I did some hand painting to do the cockpit, which didn't turn out the greatest. There are quite a number of printing flaws on this kit, so I didn't put a whole lot of time into it. But overall, I'm pretty happy with it. I think it makes a pretty nice little display. I definitely could have spent more time, or if I was really trying to do it well, I'd probably just reprint the whole thing, because there were a number of flaws that I had to repair, and even after that, they're still kind of showing. There's one kind of right here. You can see, you can kind of, it's hard to tell, so I'm not too worried about it. Again, I think it makes for a pretty nice little display. Of course, it has battery. You can see kind of our strobing lava effect in here. And then, of course, our engine lights. They too have strobing lights in them, and they were clear, and I just painted them with some yellow and orange transparent paint. And I think this is my first time lighting a resin model that I printed, at least lighting one successfully. I think I messed around with another one that didn't really work out. So pretty pleased with how that looks. And again, I think it makes a pretty nice little model and display for it. Definitely some things I could have done better, but overall I think it's pretty cool. So anyway, hope you've enjoyed the video. I'll probably get back to my starter story build. There is another little project I'm working on. That'll be probably be a short video if it works out. That may be coming up really soon. Just depends on how it works out. So again, thanks for joining me, guys. Until next time, everybody have a good one.